For the first time in years, there was real talk of a third force, a political movement that could break the dominance of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Two names stood out in this movement: Peter Obi, the former governor of Anambra State and symbol of fiscal discipline, and Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, the former governor of Kano State and leader of the powerful Kwankwaso movement. At first, Nigerians dreamed of an Obi-Kwankwaso ticket, a marriage of South and North, youth and grassroots, technocrat and populist. On paper, it was the perfect combination. But just as quickly as the dream arose, it collapsed. Kwankwaso refused to step aside or support Obi, and what could have been a historic alliance turned into two separate campaigns. So why did Kwankwaso refuse to support Obi? The answer lies in a mixture of ego, regional politics, distrust, and the pride of movements too big to merge. Before diving into the clash, we must understand who these men are. Peter Obi. Known as Okwut, meaning the Rock, Obi built his political career on humility, financial prudence, and a reputation for integrity. As governor of Anambra, he was famous for traveling without a convoy, carrying his own briefcase, and saving billions in state funds. By 2022, he had become the face of Nigeria's frustrated youth, promising a new kind of politics. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. On the other hand, Kwankwaso was a man of the masses. A former minister and senator, his legacy in Kano was built on education, infrastructure, and populist outreach. His Kwankwaso movement, symbolized by the red cap, became a religion of sorts in northern Nigeria, commanding loyalty that rivaled entire political parties. Both men had ambition. Both had loyal supporters. Both wanted change. But only one could sit at the top of a ticket. In mid-2022, discussions between Labour Party and Kwankwaso's NNPP began. Nigerians watched eagerly, believing the two camps would merge. On radio, television, and social media, analysts described the alliance as a game-changer. Imagine it: Peter Obi's passionate youth base in the southeast and south-south, combined with Kwankwaso's northern grassroots machine. Together, they could have rivaled APC and PDP head-to-head. But as the talks dragged on, disagreements surfaced. Who would be president, and who would be vice? For Obi's camp, it was unthinkable for him to step aside after the momentum he had built. For Kwankwaso's camp, it was equally unthinkable for a northern heavyweight like him to play second fiddle to a man from the southeast, a region with smaller voting numbers. The alliance crumbled. At its heart, politics is about ambition. Both Obi and Kwankwaso believed they had what it took to lead Nigeria. Kwankwaso argued that his age, experience, and national exposure made him the more suitable candidate. He had been a governor, minister, senator, and PDP stalwart. In contrast, Obi had only been a state governor. Obi, however, had the momentum. His campaign was catching fire among the youth. To step aside would have meant betraying not just himself but the millions who saw him as a symbol of change. Neither man would bend. Ego won, and Nigeria lost an alliance. Kwankwaso's refusal was not just about pride, it was about numbers. Nigeria's political map has always favored the north, with its higher population and voter turnout. Kwankwaso believed that any presidential ticket not led by a northerner would struggle to capture enough votes. He saw himself as the bridge to deliver the northern vote. Obi, in his eyes, could not penetrate the core north the way he could. Supporting Obi outright would have meant discarding this advantage. For Kwankwaso, the logic was simple: the north votes in numbers, and whoever controls the north controls the presidency. Labour Party, by 2022, was little more than a shell. It had no governors, no senators, no nationwide machinery. Kwankwaso, who had built his own party around the Kwankwaso movement, doubted that Obi's sudden wave of social media popularity could translate into real votes. He argued that politics is not about hashtags, it is about polling units, ward chairmen, and grassroots mobilizers. Without structure, Obi's movement looked like a dream too fragile to risk his career on. This distrust of Labour Party was another nail in the coffin of their alliance. For Kwankwaso, politics was not just personal, it was communal. the Kwankwaso movement was a family of millions, especially in Kano. These were people who wore red caps in his honor, who saw him as a father figure, and who believed he could one day be president. How could he stand before them and announce that he was stepping aside for Obi? It would have been a betrayal of everything the movement stood for. Kwankwaso's refusal was, in many ways, about loyalty to his people. To support Obi would have been to abandon his own legacy. Though both men wanted reform, their approaches were very different. Obi appealed to educated youths, professionals, and the middle class. His campaign thrived on TikTok, Twitter, and mass rallies where young people waved smartphones. Kwankwaso, however, appealed to farmers, market women, artisans, and the urban poor. His strength was in face-to-face mobilization, town hall meetings, and direct contact with the grassroots. These different strategies made unity difficult. They were pulling from two very different audiences. Eventually, the negotiations ended without agreement. Obi went on to run under Labour Party, and Kwankwaso under NNPP. Each became the face of their movements, but the failure to unite divided the opposition. Analysts would later argue that had they joined forces, the 2023 election might have gone differently. But history is written by what happens, not what could have happened. Obi performed strongly in the southeast, south-south, and parts of the north-central. Kwankwaso dominated Kano, securing over 1 million votes in his state alone. But separately, they could not match APC's Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who built a coalition across regions. Their division made it easier for Tinubu to win. In the end, the failure of Obi and Kwankwaso to unite was one of the biggest what-ifs of Nigerian politics. The story of why Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso refused to support Peter Obi is more than a tale of two men, it is the story of Nigeria's politics itself. On the surface, it was about ego, ambition, and who should sit at the top of the ticket. But deeper than that, it was about the forces that have shaped Nigeria for decades, the North versus the South, the struggle between old structures and new movements, and the loyalty of leaders to their personal followings over national interest. Kwankwaso refused Obi because he believed he had the numbers, the experience, and the right to lead. Obi refused to step aside because he believed he had the momentum, the moral voice, and the symbol of hope that Nigerians needed. Both were right in their own ways, and yet both were wrong together. In their failure to unite, they taught Nigeria an important lesson, that division among reformers only strengthens the old order. That when pride overshadows partnership, the dream of change is delayed. What if they had joined forces? Imagine an alliance where Obi brought the passionate obedient youths, while Kwankwaso delivered the northern grassroots. Imagine a campaign that stretched from the streets of Kano to the markets of Onitsha, from Lagos tech hubs to Abuja boardrooms. It could have been unstoppable. But it did not happen. And because it did not, Nigeria witnessed yet another election dominated by the same old parties, the same old calculations. Kwankwaso's refusal to support Obi will go down as one of the most consequential decisions of 2023. For some, it was a betrayal of unity. For others, it was the honest truth of politics. No leader wants to be a deputy when he believes he should be president. History, however, has a way of judging differently. Years from now, Nigerians may look back at 2023 and wonder, what if? What if pride had been swallowed, and partnership embraced? What if Kwankwaso had said yes, instead of no? Perhaps the greatest tragedy of Nigerian politics is not the leaders who fail, but the leaders who fail to unite. And so, the refusal of Kwankwaso to support Obi remains not just a story of two men, but a mirror of a country still searching for common ground.